Hi everyone. I know I haven't done a podcast episode in I think it's about to be a year. Um I just completely fell off. There were there were so many things that happened in my life that I am gonna make episodes about it because I do want to talk about it because I know you guys enjoy it whenever I spill tea. Um but we're back. Are we gonna be consistent? Who knows? You guys know me and consistency are just not the best of friends. This is the new setup. I'm in my room now because, as you guys know, I lost my car. So that's also why it took me forever because I was like, I don't know where I want to do this. But then I was like, if I keep on putting it off or I wait to get another car, I'm never gonna jump back on this the way that I want to. So for right now, we're gonna do it in my room. I just bought these mics the other day because I was like, dude, I have to go full force because again, if I keep on like procrastinating it, I'm never gonna get this shit done. And I did want to come back and like, there's so many things that I want to talk about. You guys already know like this place is for me just to yap about everything and nothing at all. So we will get to like the whole tea in another video, but what really made me want to come back to do like this podcast was a movie that I saw that I've been wanting to talk about for a while now, which is called Leviticus. I saw this about maybe a month ago or 2 months ago. It was sometime. Like I know I saw it twice in theaters, and the first time it just completely destroyed me. Like I was so depressed for like a whole week because I, I've talked about this on this podcast before. You know, when it comes to like the, you know, religious trauma intertwining with familial trauma, and you know how so full of it I am, and you know that's why I started going into therapy and all of that. So yeah, I just that's what I want to talk about today because I have so many thoughts, and then normally like I usually just like I give like a quick review on Instagram, and some people were asking me, they were like, "Oh, was like, how was it? How was it?" And I was like, "Dude, I can't talk about it." I was like, right now, I cannot talk about it. Like, I have to process everything that I just saw because I related to that movie in more ways than one, and in more ways than I wanted to. You know, which is why it fucked me up so bad. But that's what we're gonna be talking about today. Is basically just Leviticus. You know, just like a movie review. So I know that this is such a weird episode to do after I've been gone for like a year, and I'm just like, here's a movie review, just acting like I wasn't gone for like an entire year. But like I said, we'll get into like the other videos later on. So this episode is going to be about Leviticus. So for those of you that are interested in just hearing my thoughts or just hearing me ramble, then just keep watching, I guess. So I saw this movie, like I said, maybe like a month ago or 2 months ago. I really can't remember anymore, but I had seen certain things about it on Twitter of people talking about how like it's about like religious trauma and then like two queer teens that fall in love with each other, but then like the vague description that they gave was that like the entity becomes who you desire the most and they became each other. And I guess like it was tormenting them, and I was like, that sounds so cool. So I looked up the the promo for it, the preview, and I was like, this is so Ethel King coded. I was like, I this is giving like Preacher's Daughter, but like from a gay perspective, you know? And I was like, yeah, I have to watch this. So I went and I watched it, and it's just like I wanted to talk about it, but like my mind also goes so blank because it's like, holy fuck, dude, like the way that they were able to just really explain and show just how at times how detrimental religion can be, you know, and how dangerous it could be, how dangerous it can get, you know. The they'll pass all limitations because everything that they do, they see it in the eyes of God, you know what I mean? So like for example, and I'm gonna give spoilers, so if you haven't seen it, then that's on you. So sorry. But what I mean by that, but like how they usually view things from the eyes of God, is they had somebody in there called a divination healer. Basically, he was doing was that they were giving him like a more fancy title than what it was, but it was just him just doing exorcisms because of you being gay. If anybody had any like gay or queer thoughts, they would hire him, and then he would literally do an exorcism in front of like the entire family of who the victim is, to heal them, per se, to heal them of their sins, whatever it may be. And it just completely fucked them up after that. So in the movie, I don't even know where to start, bro. Like, but I think that's where we can start off the movie with, is because that's basically, once the divination healer is introduced into the movie, that's when everything just starts to go downhill, and that's when like the trauma and everything just starts to happen. So there's two characters in the movie named Name and then Ryan. They're both, they don't really give us too much of a backstory, but it seems like they already know each other and they already like each other, and they've been like in love with each other since like day one. The whole reason why the divination healing happens is because Name ends up running into Ryan making out with some other guy named Hunter. There's like some discourse about specifically that scene of people calling Name a snitch and calling him the villain throughout the entire movie. But what a lot, and I can see that, I can, but what a lot of people fail to realize is that usually in those moments, because religion and indoctrination as a whole is being so embedded into you, that you kind of do have, how am I trying to say it? Like, you kind of have like a dual mentality of it, where it's like, I know I shouldn't be doing this, but I do enjoy it. And maybe like his jealousy came out when he saw that, and then also too, he was just scared because he was like, oh, I'm not the only one that feels this way. There's other people who are doing this. It's the internalized homophobia, but then also mixed in with like the jealousy of like, oh, I thought, you were only doing this with me type shit. So he ends up going to, I believe it was Hunter's family, to tell them what had happened, and then they had brought both of them in, Hunter and Ryan, and that's when the divination healing happens. Like he says like a little prayer, then he lights a lighter, and he says, all your desires, all your lust has to go now, not tomorrow, not the next day, now. The minute that he blows it out, that's when like the exorcism happens. They start convulsing on the floor, they start like freaking out, they start screaming. Then that's when everything starts to change for them. That's when that entity comes to life, of it becomes the person that you desire the most. But what it does is that it kind of tricks you into thinking that is that person, and you start to like kind of like fondle with it and like kiss it and all of that, and then right when it gets you when you're most vulnerable, because you believe it is that person, it just kills you, and it attacks you. And that's, I saw that as almost like as a metaphor of, again, like how dangerous the church can be, how religion can be in general, specifically when it comes to somebody who is gay. The way that they demonize you, and the way that you become ostracized, and the way that they treat you, to the point of you are living in fears for the rest of your life. Because that's what the whole thing is when it comes to religion, is that you're supposed to be a God-fearing man, you're supposed to be a God-fearing woman, whatever it may be, and you're supposed to fear God. You're supposed to walk in the light of God. You're supposed to be cleanliness. Godliness. What is like cleanliness is the next thing to godliness. So because they see that as unclean, here you are doing everything you can to survive, to not fall into like the traps or whatever they want to call it. And eventually there are some people that unfortunately do take their lives, or they do get hate crimes, and sometimes it could be the people in their own church that are doing this to them. So then after that, Name and Ryan are at the um funeral for Hunter, and then that's when Name encounters the entity for the first time. He thinks it's him, but then the entity starts to attack him, because that's who he desires the most, is Ryan. That's when Ryan realizes that he finally saw what he was telling Name all about, because he was like, oh, like, you have to stop coming to my house, you have to stop doing this and that and whatnot. Because, oh no, yeah, because before that, Name goes to Ryan's house, and he kind of sees Ryan talking to somebody, but then it kind of shows that there's nobody there. They go to like this ice skating rink that has like an arcade and a photo booth and all that, and then they start taking photos in the photo booth. But when Name is starting to see the photos, there's no one in the photo with Ryan. So that's when he starts to get like kind of confused, and Ryan comes out with his shirt off, just bruises all over his body, because the entity was fucking him up. It was after that they went to the funeral, and Name was still kind of confused, because he was like, "What do you mean I'm showing up to your house?" And then that's when he encountered the entity, And then Hunter's sister pulled them aside, and they were like, "Oh, I know what's going on. It's the divination healer. This happened to some other girl, and now she's like in the psych ward because she went berserk." From what they heard from the, because they went to the hospital, and they what the girl was telling them was that, you're making it worse by being with each other. You guys have to separate from each other, because if not, it's gonna know exactly who you are. It's gonna learn what you desire from that person the most. It's going to start to talk like them, to touch you like them, to smell like them. It's going to become an actual human until it actually gets you. So after that, they decide that they don't want to be around each other anymore, and they're trying to like escape from it, but their love is so strong that they just can't like be away from each other. Later on, because I think Name ended up telling the mom about what happened, like he was trying to tell her what happened, she ends up getting the divination healer on him. So then that's when they both start seeing the entity. And then after that, there were so many other scenes that happened within the movie. I'm not trying to summarize the whole thing. I'm just trying to give like a quick synopsis of it. But after a while, Ryan and Name do actually separate from each other, and then that's when the mom and Name, and then like the search group are looking for Ryan because they think that he just ran away, and that's when Name's mom reveals to him, saying that, like, like, because he was telling her, he was like, dude, like, I'm hurting, I'm in pain, like, do you not see what I'm going through? Like, this kid had bags under his eyes. He still had like the marks of like when the entity of Ryan was like choking him out. He had bruises everywhere. Like, he was really fucked up. And he was telling his mom, like, yo, like, I'm scared, like, and you're just acting like you don't give a shit. And that's when we find out that the mom knew exactly what was gonna happen, because she ends up telling him, "Oh, they told me that this is irreversible, but they told me that you would be safe and that you would be okay." And that's when Ryan's like, I mean, that's when Name is like, "You knew what you were doing the whole time." And that's when she ends up telling him, like, "I'm not gonna be around for long, and we need fear in order to survive." And that's where the whole thing of like, you need to be a God fearing Christian, or just God fearing whatever it may be, because you are supposed to fear God. You're supposed to live your everyday life in fear, not wanting to disappoint God or to disappoint the church or disappoint the people around you, because, and then there was some discourse about it, of people talking about it on Twitter, saying that, like, oh, I don't understand how a mom could do that to her own kid, like, that's your kid. But what a lot of people don't realize, especially if you didn't grow up like in a religious household or just like in the church in general, that's literally what your life becomes like. Your love becomes so incredibly conditional because you are not doing what you're supposed to be doing. And when you're growing up, yeah, you want that reassurance. You want to be told that you're doing good and that they're proud of you and all these other things. But then it's like, the minute that they see you like detouring, or like you're kind of like falling off, that's when everything comes to a halt. And like, they call it love, but they sometimes pull you aside and they're like, hey, you're fucking up and everybody's noticing and we're kind of disappointed in you. And hearing stuff like that constantly at a young age, it does something to you. Reassurance is in abundance. It comes in abundance in the church, but that's if you're doing the right thing. So then, you start to teach yourself to do the right thing. You start to teach yourself to become as godly like as you can, and like this super Christian, and I want to do right. And it becomes an act of survival, rather than I want to serve God because I want to. And then it becomes, I'm doing this because I don't want to disappoint everybody, and then I don't want to lose the connections that I have. And I'm speaking from that, from experience, because I dealt with all of that growing up. I was constantly told that I was never gonna mount, like, from a religious aspect. I was never gonna mount anything. I was never good enough. I never loved Jehovah enough. I never did enough for the church, or just nothing was ever enough. Even when I would put my best foot forward and I was like preaching like crazy, and I was giving speaks on the fucking podium, and I was doing all these other things, I was still being told that it was never good enough. I it's Unfortunately, my parents fell into like that typical religious superiority of, I have reached this level of ascensionism, like, I have reached this level of holiness, and you will, as much as you try, you will never get there. You will never be one of us. And I know a lot of it had to do with the fact that they knew that I was gay, because I was outed by these two bitches. They ended up telling the elders of the congregation, and then the elders spoke to my parents, which made the whole situation even worse. So I knew that because I had that sin tainted on me, that they already knew that I wasn't gonna make it. My mom used to always tell me all the time that that she was disappointed in me, and that what made her really sad. And like it's when you weaponize the whole religion too. She would always tell me like, oh, it just makes me really sad that I'm not gonna see you like in the new world because you want to be gay, because of the lifestyle that you want to live. Every day I was just told how much of an abomination I was and how much of a disappointment I was, and it was hard, dude. And then that's that's one thing, and that's with the end of the movie, when they finally escape, and then name sees Ryan's entity outside of the bus. And that, for me, that was like, you're always gonna have to live with this. And it's true. This is something that I'm always gonna have to live with, unfortunately. Like the whole religious trauma and the queer guilt that I am so full of, because I no, I wanted to make my parents proud, and I didn't want to disappoint them. But then growing up that way, it was like, I kind of did the complete opposite. And I think that's why I am the way I am now, where it's like just how much I don't give a shit. And I started to live for myself and be happy for myself and do the things that brought me joy and fulfillment. Like I stopped caring about what my parents thought or what anybody else thought, because that's the one thing that nobody really talks about, is like the hard, treacherous journey that is of not only leaving the faith, but having to unlearn it and relearn who you are as a person outside of that. Specifically with me, because I was born into the religion. My mom got baptized when she was pregnant with me, so all I knew my entire life up until my early 20s was just was indoctrination, was religion, was Jehovah, was the church, was we go to church, on Wednesdays and Sundays, and then we go out on service, and we preach door to door. Like all I knew was specifically that, and it took years and up until now for me to unlearn so many things that were embedded into me. There were so many other mentalities that I used to have, and just thought processes that I used to have, because I was so indoctrinated that I sometimes look back and I'm like, damn, I used to think about shit like this, but it's something that because you're born into it, it's something that's so embedded into you. And having to learn all of that and relearn who you are outside of that, and it took me a minute to find who I was, and I still feel like to this day I'm still trying to learn who I am, and who I am as a person, and my likes and my dislikes, and what I tolerate and what I don't, and my belief systems and all of that. Even when I was younger, like I not not to call it this, but I feel like I've always been woke. There were so many things that even growing up that I didn't agree with, when it came to like the church, like the things, their ideologies and their mindsets and everything that I used to question. I remember my parents used to always get mad at me, like, oh, you're not supposed to be questioning God. And I'm like, but there's certain things that I don't agree with, like there's certain things that are so deep rooted in misogyny. And I'm like, and you guys are okay with this, or just like the simple fact of like when it came to like the LGBTQIA plus community, where it's like there is so many talks about that, so many like articles about that, when it comes to that specific religion, like that they're always talking about it. And I'm like, I don't know what, like I just, there were so many things I didn't agree with. And then when they would always have talks about like how bad it was being gay, it always got so awkward for me, because I'm like, I always felt so unwelcomed and so unsafe and so unaccepted in the church. And then when I finally escaped from it, it was like, yeah, it's this huge breath of fresh air, but then it's like, okay, now what? Now I have to relearn who I am. Now I have to unlearn all this fucking trauma that was brought upon me. And no, and also too, on top of that, like you end up losing so many connections with everybody. You only have the friends that you have because you always see them at church, or because you guys are going out on service. Yeah, I've hung out with some of my friends outside of that, but then it's like we mainly had a connection because we were in the same church. We were in the same religion. We always saw each other at the assemblies. And then once I had revealed to everybody, that not only was I queer, but that I was leaving the religion, I lost a lot of connections. Everybody stopped talking to me. Everybody started talking about me, and it's like that's one thing that I never liked. Where it's like you guys operate on this. Oh, we are like loving Christians, and we are always here for you. But that's if only you are doing the right thing. The minute that I turn to the other side, all of a sudden it was like, oh, fuck Adam and fuck everything about you, and it was very lonely. And I think that's also why, like, I've gotten so accustomed just to being alone, because I'm so used to it. Because for the good portion of, like, after, because I think I started to what they call, like, dissociate from the church in 2014, and then I officially left in 2019. And for the first couple of years, even during COVID, like, I was alone. Like, I didn't really have anybody to talk to. Like, I still have some friends that just genuinely loved me for who I was, and they didn't care, and they still talk to me to this day. But everybody else, just a la chingada, they told me to just to fuck off you. But that it was hard, with that, losing those connections, and then losing also, like, the somewhat connection that I had with my parents. Like, we always had, like, a rocky relationship, because I always questioned everything. I was from the minute that I was little, I was always just like a natural anarchist. I always questioned everything. I always did whatever I wanted to. I was always incredibly rebellious. And what kept somewhat of a relationship with my parents was having the connection through God and through church. And then the minute that I left, and then I became more openly queer, that's when it kind of turned the relationship sour. Like, I don't really have that good of a relationship with my parents. Like, yeah, I live with them, because they allow me to live here, because I'm not, you know technically I'm not really doing shit that I'm not supposed to be doing. I don't bring them problems, and they're okay with that. But outside of that, we don't have a relationship like that. And that's just that's like a really long explanation, just to be like, that scene was what really caught me, was how the mom just didn't care, because that's how my parents were. Like, it was, what you've been taught, and what you know, and you know what you have been taught, and you know better, so fix it. That's basically how it was. When it came to us as their kids, there was never really any empathy, and there was never really any, um how do you say it, like, they were basically softer with everybody else. There was no grace. There was no, that's what I wanted to say. There was no grace with us. If there was somebody else in the church that was falling, or that they needed, like a pick me up, they were always there for them, and they spoke to them so lovingly and kindly, and they were like, no, it's okay, like, Jehovah knows that you're trying, and blah blah. But when it came to us, it was like, no, like, you know better, and fix it. So it's just, everything becomes so conditional when you're in the church, which makes no sense, because they operate on, loving thy neighbor. And but you will only love your neighbor if they are doing what they're supposed to be doing, aka conditional love. This movie also really, like, fucked me up, because I kind of talked about it a little bit on here, but I haven't really fully talked about it. It reminded me a lot of my first love that I lost. Which is why, like, I love Preacher's Daughter by Ethel Cain, because there's a specific, that album split it into two, and the first part of the album is about, leaving the faith, and, like, she falls in love with these specific guys that she thinks will love her, but they're only abusive, because that's the type of love that she had growing up, which is what I really relate to as well. So, seeing, I didn't lose him through the church. I lost him because he took his own life. But there was something about it that just, like, them almost losing each other was what really, like, made me so emotional, because we kind of looked like the characters. I have black hair, and the other character, Ryan, has blonde hair, and he was blonde. He was Australian, which is what makes it even funnier, because in the movie, this is an Australian movie, like, all the actors are Australian. So that's what really hit home for me, was that it reminded me a lot of him, and the way that we fought to be with each other, and specifically on my end, because I fell in love with him when I was still in the church. And I knew I knew it wasn't right because of what I was taught, but I also didn't care. And then to have the whole movie just be so Ethel Cain coded, dude. Oh my god, I was losing my mind in that theater, but I was keeping it internalized, because I was with a friend, and I was like, I can't lose my mind in front of everybody. But it was such a good movie, dude. Like, and I feel like the way I'm explaining it isn't even, I'm not even doing it justice. Mostly because this is my first episode in a year, and I just I feel like I'm just rambling on, and I don't know what I'm talking about. But give me grace, because it's been a year since I made a video. But yeah, that movie was just, it's in my top five now. Like for me, it was like tens across the board. There were some people complaining, saying that it was too short, but then it's like when they escape, what more do you want? Like, yeah, they escape. They're gonna have to deal with this trauma for the rest of their life, but they're gonna have each other. Like, what more do you want? you know. There was also some discourse that I saw that I kind of bothered me. Was somebody has said that like, oh, I didn't like it because throughout the entire movie, like they couldn't even use the word gay, and I was like, grow up, grow up, like, like literally grow up, dude. Like that's how you know it's coming from somebody that never grew up in the church, because that is how they act. Where it's like they can't even say the word because it's that sinful in their eyes. Because in the movie, that's how they were beating around the bush with it. Um, Specifically when Name was trying to tell his mom, like the first time when he was trying to tell her like, hey, there's something like attacking me and going after me, and she was like, well, who is it? And he was like, oh, I can't really explain it, only people like us can see it. Me, Ryan, and Hunter, only people like us. And but that's how it is. Like they'll beat around the bush, they won't say the actual word, because they see you and the word as that sinful, as that much of an abomination. And it's like, girl, if that's the reason why you didn't like the movie, I need you to read more. Like I need you to grow up, get some emotional intelligence, like wake it up. You know what I mean? But yeah, this movie had me so fucked up, and I was depressed for like a whole week, and I was listening to Ethel Kane nonstop, and then I fell in the rabbit hole of TikTok where like my entire FYP is edits of the movie with Ethel Kane songs, and then on Twitter there was people adding like stills of the movie with Ethel Kane lyrics, and I was like, dude, I was just hurting my own feelings at one point. But yeah, it's such an amazing movie. I mean, especially if you grew up in that type of environment, you're gonna relate to it so heavy, which to some people can be detrimental to their mental health. But I knew what I was walking into because I already knew what it was about, and I was like, you know what, I want to watch this, and I knew I was gonna fall in love with it. And then to make it worse, the ending scene was my favorite song by Frank Ocean, self control. Like yeah, you guys wanted me to shoot myself. You know what I mean? But yeah, I don't think it's in theaters anymore, but it is on digital. If you guys can watch it, I would highly recommend it. It was such an incredibly good movie. It's just I have so many words, but none at the same time, which is why like I didn't know if I even wanted to do this episode, because there's so many things I want to say, but my brain gets jumbled up because you guys just don't understand like the way that I have related to this in so many ways, and it feels like it's I've related to it in more bad than good. Yeah, that's gonna do it for me today. I know this video is gonna be shorter than what I've normally done, but I'm trying to get back into the swing of things, and I want to see how this video turns out. And yeah, I will have my socials linked down below, and I will catch you guys on the next video.